So Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to another day in the Kartik Damodar month special, where we're looking at the various pastimes of the Lord from Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Yesterday, we ended with the Venu Gita, a very famous 20 shlokas, where the Gopis are glorifying the Lord. They are constantly thinking about the Lord while they're singing about the Lord's, the beauty, everything that decorates him, the fun and mirth that the Lord has with the Gopa boys, etc. So generally this kind of love is called spontaneous love. But how do we get the same kind of spontaneous love? For that kind of spontaneous love, we must first surrender to Guru. And we have to be answerable to Guru as well. So without that trust, we will not be able to make any progress on the path of bhakti. So through the Bhagavatam in the last few chapters, we've observed the change of seasons. As per Vedic calendar, there are 6 seasons or 6 ritus, as we call it. We'll start with the Vasanta Ritu, which generally comes in the March, April month. Then we move to the Grishma, or Vasanta Ritu means springtime, which is March, April. Then we move to the Grishma Ritu, which is May, June time frame. And that's generally considered to be summertime. Then we have the Varsha Ritu, which is the monsoon season, coming in July and August, as per our Vedic culture. Okay, now of course with the, what do you call it, global warming, we can really see that weather patterns have changed. But as per the calendar, Vasanta, then Grishma, then Varsha. Then after Varsha, we have Sharad Ritu. And this is the autumn time, when it's a little bit cooler. And all of the trees and flowers, everything is flowering very nicely in autumn time as well. Or rather, the trees are beginning to shed their leaves one by one. Then we have the Hemanta Ritu, which is November, December time, which is the colder time of the year. And then we have the Shishir Ritu, which is the January, February time. Yeah. So here we said that in Kartik month, the presiding deity is Srimati Radharani. And in this Kartik month, we take our vrat beginning with Sharad Purnima. And we end our vrat on Rasa Purnima. So from Purnima to Purnima, we observe this month as well as the Rats. So since Radharani is the presiding deity, we have to worship her and seek her mercy. So Krishna is the object of love and devotion for all of the Vrajavasis. The same Krishna who attracts everyone, including the trees, including the animals and birds and insects, the river, the wind, the sun, Krishna is all attractive. So everybody is attracted to Krishna, and most importantly, everybody wants an opportunity to serve Krishna. So because Krishna is the object of affection, he is called the Vishaya Vigraha. He's our goal. But Krishna bows down to Srimati Radharani, because Radharani is said to be the source of all devotion. So she is the Ashraya Vigraha. That means technically we have to take shelter of Srimati Radharani. So she is the giver of devotion, Bhakti Pradhayini. So Krishna himself says that we cannot get devotion for him or love for him if we have first not bowed down to Srimati Radharani. So we have to beg Radharani to give us that devotion to Krishna. If Krishna is the greatest, then Srimati Radharani controls the greatest. She completely controls Krishna. Therefore, our acharyas say her position is higher than Krishna's. This is the Vaishnava acharyas say that. So, if you could look at it this way, the Vrajavasis control Krishna. The Gopis have more control over Krishna, and Srimati Radharani has the most control over Krishna. And Krishna says in one of the pastimes that, my dear Srimati Radharani, you are so great, I cannot understand your greatness. So please put your lotus feet on my head. So Krishna wants Srimati Radharani's lotus feet on his head. And we are all hankering for Krishna. So Bilva Mangala Thakur says that Krishna comes when a sincere devotee calls him. Just like when Prahlad called out to him, Krishna came. When Draupadi calls for him, Krishna comes. When Gajendra calls out for him, Krishna comes. So Krishna comes when you call out to him sincerely. But one must develop that love and attraction and love and service attitude towards Krishna. And that is routed to Krishna through Srimati Radharani. So Krishna experiences bliss in the company of his devotees. But Srimati Radharani experiences more bliss than Krishna by serving Krishna. So Krishna experiences bliss surrounded. He is Atmaram. But his devotees bring him bliss. But the devotees experience more bliss than Krishna, especially Srimati Radharani. So Prabhupada says, in one of the lectures, I remember, Prabhupada said that Srimati Radharani is 10 times more beautiful, 10 times more merciful, 10 times more than Krishna. If Krishna is X, Srimati Radharani is 10X. Yes. So much so, Krishna wanted to experience her devotion and comes as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to experience the kind of intensity of love that Srimati Radharani has for him. So much so, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu frequently goes into transcendental ecstasy and loses consciousness in the Leelas that we are talking about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Srimati Radharani had warned him that he may not be able to handle what she feels. And you see a lot of this playing out in the Leela, especially of the Lord in Jagannath Puri. He goes into ecstasy, he loses consciousness, he exhibits all of the transcendental symptoms of somebody who's in transcendental ecstasy. Now, as Krishna, you don't see him going into this ecstasy. But as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he does experience this ecstasy because he's come in the mood of Srimati Radharani. So we've listened to the Venu Geet, and out of the blue, an unexpected pastime happens. And we're going to get into that pastime. So the Venu Geet was in chapter 20 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10. So today, our Leela will focus on chapter 21, where Krishna steals the garments of the unmarried gopis. So gopis are broken into two categories. Some of the gopis are already married. In those days, marriages were fixed at a very young age. Yeah. But the girls may still have been residing in their parents' home only. So here, this particular pastime, the Lord is just about 7 years old, and Shukadev Goswami talks about this pastime to Parikshit Maharaj. He says, the winter season has come. It is the first month. So each of the 6 ritus that we talked about, each of them covers 2 months, right? So this is the Margashisha month specifically, December, January timeframe. So these young girls, they are called Kumaris. In the very first shloka, Sri Shukadev Goswami uses the word Kumari. Kumari means 5 and under the age of 5. So these were little children actually. Yeah. But they were considered unmarried girls, which we would never use that term. An unmarried girl for somebody between 0 to 5. Yeah. We would just call them a child. But anyway, so these young girls, they had taken a vow. They were worshipping goddess Katyayani or Durga Devi during this month. And they had kept a vrat. So for those 30 days, their vrat was, we will wake up early in the morning. We will go together to the river Yamuna, take our bath there, perform some worship there of Mother Katyayani on the banks of the Yamuna, and have very, 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 very simple food of khichdi. That's it. And that too khichdi that has no spice in it, which includes no salt. So this was the vrat that they kept. And Shukadev Goswami says, so like this, the girls would come to the banks of the river just as the sun was rising. What would they do? They would have already taken a bath, and just as the sun was rising up on the eastern horizon, the gopis would take the mud and clay from the banks of the river Yamuna, and they would make deities of Durga every day. So each one of them would make these little earthen deities. And then they would worship her. So that means they were carrying all those items from home after taking a bath and dressing themselves. They would each of them would make this deity of Durga Devi, and they would worship her with incense, sandalwood pulp, and lamps, fruits, betel nuts, garlands, incense sticks. Like these very young gopis would be worshipping Mother Katyayani. What was their desire? And they chanted a specific mantra every day, the same desire. They were doing it internally. They were not chanting this mantra loudly. So each of them was asking for the same thing. Actually not asking, demanding of Mother Parvati for the same thing. They call out to Mother Katyayani saying, "Hey Durga Devi, You are, after all, one of the Shakti potencies of the Lord. You are a great yogini yourself. You control all of the Jivatmas. Now you please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. I offer my obeisances unto you. Normally we say prayer means your request should be coming last, and we are taught in ISKCON that when we pray to the Lord, we don't tell the Lord, give me this. Even if it is a spiritual desire, we don't tell the Lord, give me this. The prayer always ends with, if it be so your desire, my dear Lord, thank you for considering my prayer and my request. If it be your desire, then you say Tathastu. But here the girls were saying, you please make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. They began by glorifying Mother Katyayani. They ended by making a demand, saying, make the son of Nanda Maharaj my husband. That means each gopi was worshipping Katyayani this way without knowing what the other gopi was praying for. That means all of them had the same desire. They wanted Krishna to be their husband. So like the Shukadev Goswami is saying, for an entire month, these girls were carrying out their vow. They were doing proper worship. As they were worshipping Katyayani, where was their mind? On Krishna. They were meditating on Krishna and telling themselves, may the son of Nanda Maharaj become my husband. So for 30 days, they were meditating upon Krishna like this, wanting Krishna, desiring Krishna. So every day they would wake up early in the morning, call out to each other. They will hold hands. And as they're walking to the Yamuna river, they would be singing and dancing, singing about Krishna. One day, Kanaya came by. Because after all, he knows what's in their heart. So they had set aside their clothing as usual on the banks of the river. And they happily were taking a bath in the water while singing about Krishna. And so Krishna comes. And Shukadev Goswami describes Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all the masters of mystic yoga. So he is called Yogeshwara. He is the master for all the yogis. So he knows what is in the heart of the gopis. And he had come there with a few of his companions. And he came there for a specific purpose. He had heard their prayer and he wanted to reciprocate with them in relation to the prayer that the gopis had. So what does he do? As the girls are taking a dip in the Kalindi river, Krishna picks up all of their garments. He quickly climbs to the top of a kadamba tree and he starts laughing. When he laughs, the few boys who were with him also start to laugh. By now, the girls know Krishna is there. And so Krishna speaks to them. Krishna says, my dear girls, each of you come here one by one and take back your garments. He's sitting on the top of the tree and he has the garments with him and he's telling them, you come one by one to me. I'm not joking, he says. I can tell you all have kept this austere vows during this month. You look very, very tired and weak because they're only eating Havishyana without salt once a day. So he says, you're all so tired. You've kept all this sincere austerities and so much vows that you'll have taken. So you come and collect your garments from me one by one. You know? And then he says, I never speak lies. You can ask these boys. I have never spoken a lie in my life. So come forward. Either if you want, you can come one by one, or you can come all together. And you can come and select your clothes. Now the gopis became a little bit embarrassed. At the same time, they were just delirious with bliss because the object of their affection was there. What was in their mind and their hearts? That they wanted Krishna as their husband. So somebody who you secretly love suddenly comes in front of you. You can imagine it's simultaneously embarrassing and simultaneously blissful. So Krishna was joking with them like this, but their minds were just absorbed with him. They didn't know what to say. So they were looking at each other, giggling, joking among themselves. They didn't know what to do. They didn't have any clothes on. How are they going to come out of the water? So how are they going to resolve this particular situation with Krishna? They were so attracted to Krishna. Shukadeva Goswami says, up to their neck, they were immersed in the cold water in the early morning. And since they were in the water for some time, they begin to shiver. Their bodies were experiencing the cold. And the gopis start to speak to Krishna. And they tell Krishna, you're not being very fair. Aren't you the respectable son of Nanda Maharaj? Everybody looks up to you in Raja. We too look up to you. You are so dear to us. Just give back our clothes. We are shivering in this water. Essentially, they're telling Krishna, we thought you were an honorable person. How can you ask us to come out of the water, come to you, knowing fully well that we are all naked, and come and collect our clothes like that? So don't do this. Essentially, they are very politely telling Krishna, you were raised well, I hope. So give back our clothes. It's getting a little cold. And then they tell Krishna, hey, Shyamasundara, we are your servants. And because we are your maid servants, we must do whatever you ask us to do. But you please give back our clothing. Because then they use the word dharmagnya. They say, you are the father of dharma. You know what religious principles are. And don't make us beg and plead with you anymore, because if you don't give us the clothes, we will tell Kamsa about this. No, first they say we will tell the king, which is we'll go and complain to your father. This is how you are behaving with us. And the Lord smiles and responds to them. And he says, see, you are just telling me you are all my maid servants. Then maid servants have to be obedient. Then you should do exactly as I'm asking you to do, which is come to me and collect your garment. Then he says, if you don't follow my instruction, I won't give you back your clothes. And so what if you tell Nanda Maharaj, I don't care? What do you think Nanda Maharaj can do to me? So the Lord becomes a little testy with them and says, okay, you just claim that you are my maid servants. If you are my maid servants, you have to be obedient, right? And I am telling you, you come here and get your clothes. If you don't follow my instruction, then I'm not going to return the clothes to you. And I don't care if you go running and telling Nanda Maharaj, what's he going to do after all? So, so feeling hesitant. So after all, one person has to make a move, right? One of the girls or a couple of the girls have to make a move because they're all standing there neck deep in water. So since they were shivering and the cold had become intense, a few of the girls come out of the water. They cover their front area with their hands. And the Lord notices what they are doing. He was very satisfied because they were beginning to follow his instruction. So the Lord's heart was filled with love for the gopis. So what does he do? He picks up all their clothes that he had put on the various tree branches, put it on his shoulders. And seeing the gopis making an attempt to come out of the water in this way, he smiles and he tells them, you know, it's nice that you've kept this vow, but you've not followed this vow properly. You've followed the vow properly, but you've not adhered to the do's and don'ts. You are not supposed to bathe naked in a holy river because you have committed an offense against Varunadev by taking a bath naked. While you are executing your vow, you violated one of this principle, that you should never take a bath naked. You should always have some clothes on when you're taking a bath in a holy river, because it's an offense to the river to be bathing naked in the river. So, but I can tell you how to counteract this sin that you've committed. Imagine the gopis are thinking, oh my God, 30 days we're trying to keep this vrat. And here Kanaya is telling us we have committed a blunder for so many days by taking a bath naked in the river. But Krishna gives them a solution. To counteract the sins that you have committed, especially against Varunadev, you should offer your Dandavats pranams to me while putting your palms together above your head like this. Now, the gopis have just slowly started stepping out of the water. Now, Krishna is saying, raise your hands above your head in the namaste position and offer your obeisances. Actually, he doesn't say offer your obeisances to me. He's saying offer your obeisances to the river that you have committed an offense against. Then you, after you've offered your obeisances, then you come and collect your clothes. So the girls were thinking, what to do now? So when they hear Achyuta telling them this, and they were feeling extreme remorse that they have committed such a blunder by bathing naked in the river, but still they wanted to complete the vow. And Krishna had said, if they offer obeisances like this, it will counteract whatever mistakes that they had made. And because Krishna, they understood internally, was their ultimate savior, they actually offer obeisances to him as he is sitting on that Kadamba tree. So they lose their inhibition, their shyness, because after all, they have to counteract the sin. And Krishna has instructed them what they need to do. So they offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord. And the Lord, feeling great deal of compassion for them, gives their garments back to them, being very, very satisfied. And in one of the shlokas, in shloka number 22, Shukadev Goswami says, Dridham pralabdhastrapaya chahapitah prasto bhita kridanavachakaritah Vastrani chaiva pahritanyathaapyamam tanabhyasuyan priyasanga nivritaah. Shukadev Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, although the gopis had been thoroughly cheated, deprived of their modesty, ridiculed, and made to act just like toy dolls, and although their clothing had been stolen, they did not feel at all inimical towards Sri Krishna. Rather, they were simply joyful to have this opportunity to associate with their beloved. From a societal norms perspective, whatever Krishna has done so far seems to be extremely improper. And Shukadev Goswami is saying, Krishna actually cheated them, deprived them of their modesty, made fun of them, and asked them to do things that nobody else would have asked them to do or should not have asked them to do. But what was the gopis' mood? They were not angry with Krishna. They were not disappointed. Their joy only increased because they had the opportunity, the great fortune of associating with their beloved, because their minds was already captivated by Krishna. So as they collect their garments one by one from Krishna, see, Krishna had it on his shoulders. So the garments had become prasadam. So one by one, they put on their clothes, but they didn't want to leave. They just remained there under the tree, glancing at Krishna, wondering, what's his next move going to be? So the Lord tells the gopis, he knew that the gopis wanted to touch his lotus feet. And so Krishna addresses the girls. He says, you're all very pure girls. He says, oh saintly girls, I know why you're keeping this vrat. Your real motive, although you're worshipping Katyayini, your intent, I approve of. And whatever desire you've had for which you're keeping this vow, that desire will be fulfilled. So two things Krishna does. Krishna sanctions and approves of their desire. What was their desire? That they wanted Krishna as their husband. And Krishna says, I approve of it. He didn't say, I know all of you wanted to get married to me. He simply says, I approve of your desire. And indeed, because it is such a wonderful desire, it's a pure desire, it'll be fulfilled. So imagine how delirious with bliss the gopis would have been hearing Krishna say, your desires I approve of, and it will come to pass. And then Krishna speaks a little bit of Bhagavad Gita in one shloka to them. In the 26th shloka, Krishna tells the gopis, the desire of those who fix their minds on me does not lead to material desire for sense gratification. So Krishna is saying, those who fix their minds on him at the same time cannot fix their minds on material desires. It will just get replaced. The spiritual desire replaces material desires. And the Lord uses a beautiful analogy. He says, just as barley corns burned by the sun and then cooked can no longer grow into new sprouts. So it's all your desires are being purified when you have a desire to serve Krishna. Then your material desires cannot sprout anymore. It is impossible because those seeds are already cooked. They have lost that potency to germinate material desires that will take you away from Krishna. So the potency of desiring Krishna for yourself, that Krishna is mine, he belongs to me, eliminates all of the material desires. So saying this, Krishna tells the gopis, you can all return to Vraja. Your desire will be fulfilled very, very soon. I will personally associate with you in one of the upcoming nights. And he says, after all, wasn't that the primary purpose for which you had taken the vow to worship goddess Katyayani? And he calls the girls pure-hearted. So receiving this instruction from the Lord to return back to their homes, and with the promise that the Lord himself will fulfill their desires, they didn't want to be separated from Krishna. But still, since the Lord had instructed them, they were after all his maidservants. So slowly, while they were meditating on Krishna's lotus feet, they return home. Right. Now we'll go into the deeper meaning of this pastime before we conclude this particular chapter. The chapter is not over yet. There are a few more shlokas. The girls have gone back to Vraja. So as we said, the gopis are very, very clear. They have just one desire and one desire alone, that Krishna should become their pati, meaning husband. For that, they were worshipping Katyayani. Why? After all, she was the goddess, the powerful yogi, mystic. She is the Shakti potency of the Lord. So certainly she can fulfill their desire. So although the Lord steals their clothes, they were a little bit annoyed, but mostly happy that he was there with them. So the significance of this particular pastime is actually quite deep. See, Krishna asks for complete surrender. We have heard about the 5 koshas, right? The Annamaya kosha, which is the external body covering. Then there is the Pranamaya kosha, the fact that you have life within you. The Manomaya kosha, which is your mind, which is attracted to different things. Vijnanamaya kosha, which is your intellect and reasoning capacity. And finally, the Anandamaya kosha, which is that you're a sentient being and you're a blissful being. So there is a deep philosophical meaning behind these 5 koshas. So Krishna is saying, in order to experience complete bliss in full service and love for him, you have to give up all of these external sheets that are covering us, including your inhibitions. So the gopis were instructed to come out naked and bow down. They tried to cover themselves with their hand. But Krishna said, no, if you want me as your husband, then you have to give up even that inhibition. Right? So His Grace Amoglila Prabhu was explaining this particular pastime as follows, that this is not some Romeo and Juliet story. This is not a mundane pastime. Otherwise, the acharyas would not be glorifying the position of the gopis in Srimad Bhagavatam, that they are in an exalted position. So it's not that the gopis could do anything wrong or Krishna has done anything wrong. So these gopis are actually a combination of the Nitya Siddhas from the spiritual world and also some of the sages from the Dandakaranya forests when they meet Lord Ram. And they want to spend time with Lord Ram, but Lord Ram says, now is not the time. In my next avatar, you will have an opportunity to associate with me. So some of these sages of the Dandakaranya forest and some of the Nitya Siddhas from the spiritual world are actually coming as the gopis. So this form of bhakti is called Raganuga Bhakti, such spontaneous love for the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada once said that the goal of Krishna consciousness is to join this Radha Krishna dance party. We want to join that dance. Not to enjoy ourselves individually with the Lord, but to serve the maidservants of the Supreme Lord. The servants of the servants of the servants of the servants of the Lord. Right? So the gopis felt Krishna belongs to me. And Krishna was saying, well, if I belong to you, then you should have zero inhibitions, right? You should be completely surrendered to me. So Krishna, of course, later on fulfills their desires through the rasa dance, including with these gopis. That means even their shyness had to be given up to please the Lord. The deeper meaning for this is that one must be completely honest and transparent with Guru and Krishna. You can't hide anything from Guru. You cannot hide anything from Krishna. There should be no compromise on this. So if there is no honesty in our heart, we will not be able to serve Guru. Sometimes Guru may ask you tough questions or questions that you may think for a moment, should I speak the complete truth or should I do a little fudging to save my own skin? Guru already knows you. So it is better to be completely honest, right? So we cannot compromise on morality when you are dealing with Guru and Krishna. We have to be completely honest with our intent, with our desires, with our anarthas, with the challenges that we are facing. So we cannot hide anything from Guru and Krishna. Because if we hide anything from Guru and Krishna, it will impede our spiritual progress. So honesty is the fulcrum on which we make progress on the spiritual path. Because we should confess our weakness and offenses to Guru and Krishna. Otherwise, Krishna and Guru will expose your weakness. And we should be ready for chastisement at that time. Because after all, Krishna says, finally, yes, now that you're surrendered to me, you can wear your dresses and go back home. Because your parents have instructed you to keep this vrat. So now your duty is to go back home. So Krishna will fulfill our deepest desires if we are willing to be honest with him. So when you are offering prayers to the Lord every day, we must confess to the Lord that we have no love for him. We want to love him, but we don't know how to love him. We can't love him because we are filled with all of these impurities within us. So we have to beg and plead with the Lord to remove these impurities from our heart on a daily basis so that we have an opportunity to serve him with a little bit more faith, with a little bit more purity. So even this purity, the impurities within us, we cannot get rid of it on our own. We have to ask Krishna for help. We have to pray to Guru and to Krishna every day, asking them to help us. So when we are in front of the deities, this should be part of your prayer. My dear Lord, I have a big ego. I have so much pride. I have so much lust for so many nonsense things. Externally, I'm pretending to be a devotee. Internally, I know I'm not a devotee yet. But you know that. So please remove the impediments that are preventing me from making spiritual progress. So we have to cry out to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Ram and Guru, and plead with them to remove our impurities. Because if you're not desperate for the Lord's help, why will the Lord step in to help you? But the minute you cry out with desperation to the Lord, then the Lord will step in. So in the Damodar Leela, Amog Leela Prabhu says this. In the Damodar Leela, Krishna steals the butter and then Mother Yashoda binds him. In this particular Leela, the Gopis bind Krishna with their desire, and then Krishna comes to steal their clothes. Right? So Krishna has to steal butter to attract the attention of Mother Yashoda. 100% attention on him. Maybe this is the reason little infants throw a temper tantrum sometimes, because they are simply demanding attention specifically from their mother. So Krishna has to steal to attract the full attention of his mother. Here, the Gopis already had this strong desire for Krishna, and they were thinking about him for these 30 days. So Krishna has already been bound by the Gopis' love for him. And he gives them an opportunity to serve him by stealing their clothes. So with Mother Yashoda, it's stealing first, binding next. Here it is binding first, stealing next. So the Gopis have gone back to their respective homes, and Krishna is wandering into the forest, and he sees a huge tree that is acting like an umbrella. And in the last few verses of this particular chapter, Krishna is glorifying the position of the trees. He's telling his friends, just look how great these trees are. Their entire life is dedicated to the service of others. And while they are serving others, they tolerate the wind, the rain, the heat, the snow. They provide so much protection while they themselves are undergoing such severe austerity. Look at their mood of serving. Just look at how these trees are maintaining so many jivatmas. And Krishna says, definitely their birth is very successful. And they are like they're like great sages who are so merciful. Whatever anybody asks them, They readily give. You want my branch? Take it. You want to pluck my leaves? Take it. You want my roots? Okay, take it. It means I have to give up my life to feed you. Take it. So the trees, Krishna says, they are so merciful. They fulfill everyone's desires. Leaves, fruits, shade, roots, bark, wood, fragrance, even their sap, even their ashes, even the young shoots, even their pulp. Krishna is saying every part of the tree is being used for the sustenance of other jivatmas. Therefore, he says, all of the jivatmas, here he's specifically talking about the human beings, that we should always perform welfare activities for the benefit of others. Right? So all the trees were being glorified by Krishna along the banks of the Yamuna river. So like this, the boys were wandering around with their cows. They approached the river Yamuna to drink her waters, and they were herding their cows along the forests, and suddenly the boys become really, really hungry. So to hear more about what happens next, please join us tomorrow. The Gopas are very hungry. They're looking for some food. That particular day, they had not brought their lunch boxes. Grantraj Srimad